Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Bonjour, Denise.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, wonderful. Okay, so I will make a brief introduction just to advance as much as possible the beginning of the session. Okay, so welcome to this forum. We call it the European Alliance Against Coronavirus. It's organized from the European Commission, especially DG GROW, with the European Cluster Alliance and with strong collaboration from other agents as, for example, EURADA and the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. This is an open forum, so the invitation is to share knowledge, ideas, and proposals. We welcome everybody. And we will record the session and publish it in the European Cluster Collaboration Platform with also the presentation that we will share. So the scheme is a little special today because the session will take 90 minutes long, will be 90 minutes long. We have 6 speakers, so a lot for us. The thematic is really merited. It's health and the industrial ecosystem. You know that this month we are focusing our discussion on how the industrial ecosystems, every one of them, can be linked with the European recovery plans at national level, and also other regional or European levels. Okay, so we are looking for information and models or templates or references on how that can be done. Okay, today we are welcoming for this introduction Anna Ablacevica. I don't know if Anna is here. Not yet.
Morning, I'm here.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. We will hear Anna, Ivan Arias Roldan, Denise Dambois from IPR unit of the European Commission, Mark Deschamps from the Cluster BioWin, Horst Donstey from BioN, and Anaïs Lecobert from CIBER. So that's the plan, and after that we will have the open discussion, and please participate. Please use the chat at any moment to share your ideas, to share also your references, links, or proposals, and we will have the time to speak about that after the speeches of the 6 persons that you have in the screen. So, without more introduction, thank you, Anna Ablacevica, for joining us. Would you like to have presentation rights?
Good morning. No, I don't have slides, so I'll do just an oral presentation. So no, I don't think I need presentation rights for that.
Perfect.
So I'll turn my camera on. Okay, I hope you can hear me and maybe eventually also see me. So good morning, my name is Anna. I work for DG GROW, so Unit D2. We have chemicals, plastics, fertilizers, pyrotechnic, explosive, and detergent industries with us. And so we have both legislation and more like policy and technical work like standardization and other aspects. And we have also bioeconomy, by the way, always forget that one. So as I said, I don't have slides, but I hope my presentation will be quite easy to understand. I try to structure it in a way that you can have your takeaway messages quite easily. I will first start with a short background on the industrial ecosystems. I don't know to what extent you are aware of the work that has been done and was announced. Then I will explain what is the health ecosystem. Indeed, this is a very good presentation of the industrial ecosystem that we have. So today I will present what is the health ecosystem. Because at the time I coordinated together with another colleague the work on establishing different components and limits of this health ecosystem. So the work was coordinated and inputs were received both from Grow, Connect, and DG Sante. So it's a cooperative and collaborative ecosystem, at least from the European Commission perspective. And then I'll give also some insights in the future, not some very, very, very brief insights in the future. So let's first set the scene. So in the work on industrial ecosystems was announced in the industrial strategy that was adopted in March 2020, just before we all went into lockdown. So we have 14 ecosystems that capture around 90% of the EU added value. They are composed of all sizes of economic actors, so from the smallest startup to the biggest global company, research, academia, suppliers, manufacturers, services. So it's a very encompassing way of thinking industrial policy. So because no one could anticipate and no one knew that COVID crisis will happen, when the crisis arrived, we used the ecosystem approach for probably a very different purpose than initially it was supposed to be. We use it to assess the impacts of the COVID crisis on ecosystems, and then based on this assessment, to look at what are the needs, urgent, short, mid, and long-term needs. Investments also keeping in mind that we haven't lowered our ambition in terms of green and digital transition. We just added the objective of the resilience given what happened during the COVID crisis. So when we had to establish the limits and the components of each ecosystem, we adopted a very pragmatic approach because we needed to be sure that we avoid overlaps and double counting. So we used these NASA codes for economic activities. That was during the crisis, but we know that industrial ecosystems, they are alive. They are closely interlinked. So we have 14, and not all of them are interconnected, but for example, health ecosystem is linked to all the other ecosystems. Stronger links, weaker links, but they are always links. And actors from these ecosystems, they evolve in a very similar context, let's say, be it in the internal market or global value chains. And the most important thing to understand is that changes are happening all the time. And so we need to keep up with these changes. And so we need to have these industrial ecosystems that are close to reality, not only on paper. So because it's not the purpose. So, and the health ecosystem is really shows this complexity and constant changes that are happening in the real life. So we established an ecosystem that has 5 pillars. So pharmaceutical manufacturing, which it's manufacturing of medicines as finished products, but also all the key inputs that are needed to manufacture medicines. We have medical devices, we have health technologies, we have health and care services, and we have personal protective equipment industries as well. So it's a mix of different activities: manufacturing, services, new technologies. A mix of very different actors with a strong involvement of national public authorities, a strong role played by them. We have an ecosystem with a very high societal and economic value, as we could see, especially for the societal value and and we have different dimensions. This is also something very, very interesting. We have this we can have very local interest. We have regional and national interest. We have European interest, and we have also the global. So we really tick all the boxes in terms of geographical dimension. And as I said, we also have strong links with all the other ecosystems, which, I mean, it's a really interesting and very complex ecosystem. When we assessed the economic impact of COVID crisis on health industries, at the time, we assumed that the ecosystem did not incur any equity losses. But we did a qualitative assessment of impacts, of issues, and for each pillar. So the list is quite long. I will not go through the list today, but I can present some common features and impacts that were there for all the pillars. So during the crisis, there were difficulties to deal with the surge in demand. We also saw vulnerabilities due to the fact that we rely on imports from third countries, and we had issues also with availability of personal protective equipment for workers. So these are the common features, and then, as I said, for each pillar there were specific concerns. So, as I said, the health ecosystem is evolving, and maybe you heard last week the intervention of President von der Leyen, her State of the Union speech, where she reaffirmed that we need to build a stronger European health union. And so some concrete actions were already announced, but this focus on the health union was very prominent. And this is she began her speech with the health aspect. So we could ask ourselves a question: what a stronger European health union means and what is required. So really, from the industrial ecosystem approach, I think a stronger European health union, the foundation, the cornerstone of this is a strong and resilient health ecosystem, because this is where we have all the industries, and in order to have a stronger and a resilient health ecosystem, what we need is a robust and innovative, sustainable industrial base in the EU. We need to address vulnerabilities and dependencies of the supply chains. So we need to have diversified sources of supply. We have to have good knowledge of available alternatives. We need to have monitoring tools so that we can anticipate and prevent serious disruptions, a well-functioning internal market, and international trade where borders are open. This is also a prerequisite for a stronger and resilient health ecosystem. We need to invest in innovative product solutions, technologies, companies. Upskilling and reskilling of the workforce will also be key. We need to deploy digital solutions in the health area, and we also need to have a clear overview of what we need, what are our industrial capacities at national level, so that we can understand it at the EU level what is possible, be it in times of crisis, or just also for to maintain our global competitiveness on health products. And so, as I said, a health ecosystem is, in very bureaucratic European Commission terms, it's a shared ecosystem. So we have 3 DGs that collaborate on this health ecosystem. So I cannot really speak on behalf of the others because they have specific priorities and actions ongoing. I can then speak more specifically about my input and my contribution to making this health ecosystem stronger and more resilient. I told you I work for the chemicals unit. So in the chemicals unit, we have started to work on active pharmaceutical ingredients. They are key inputs for pharmaceutical manufacturing. And we know that we have issues, at least we hear from member states and for also from some industries and for MEPs, that we have here issues with over reliance on imports from third countries. Opinions are diverging on to what extent we rely on China or India or other Asian countries. But the idea is that before we announce or take any measure that would address the issue, we will collect information and data on what are the industrial capacities here in Europe, to have a better understanding of vulnerabilities, and so based on such an assessment, we will be able to take adequate, targeted, appropriate actions to ensure that we contribute to securing supply of medicines to European patients. We have diversified supply chains, and that we help industry also to engage in the green and digital transition with the overarching objective of sustainable global competitiveness of manufacturing of pharmaceuticals in Europe. So the main focus is on data collection, and then we can see what else is required based on the data that we will collect. Thank you for your attention. I think I did the tour, so I'm happy to answer your questions and give further insights if I can.
Thank you very much to you, Anna. It has been a very clear presentation. Congratulations for all the work that you are doing. I think that if you are able to remain with us, we will have the question at the end of the speeches, if you agree. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And now it's time to hear the next speakers. Ivan Arias from DigiGrow. Also, welcome, Ivan.
Well, hello, good morning.
Would you like to have a presentation rights?
Do you? I send it to you. But
yes, I can present.
Yeah,
myself.
if you can present yourself through the presentation yourself better. Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Okay, let me.
It's just 3 slides. It's not that much, so you will see.
Let me open it. No, sorry. I have so many.
Yeah, don't worry.
You win. Yeah, now. Sorry. So here it is. The floor is yours, Ivan. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Ivan Arias. I'm policy officer for personal protective equipment regulation of the European Commission in DigiGrow. And I'm going to tell you in these 10 minutes what is PPE, what is the regulatory framework, what do we do, and what has been our response so far since the beginning of the pandemic. Okay, so with regards PPE, as you have heard as well from my colleague Anna, forms together with pharmaceuticals, medical devices, health services, and health technology part of the health ecosystem. I'm sure you are all quite aware of what PPE is, but I would like to highlight the definition because sometimes there is misunderstanding, and there is a special case with face masks. So personal protective equipment are products that the user can wear or hold to be protected against risks either at work, at home, or whilst engaging in leisure activities. Okay. But it's important to highlight that the intention of PPE is to protect you and not protect the others. So this is a very important factor when allocating a product within the EU legislation. For example, masks in the context of COVID. There are 3 types of different masks in the market right now. The FFP2, the FFP type masks that are made to protect you and fall therefore within the PPE regulation. The medical masks, which are made to protect the patient and fall within the Medical Devices Directive, and community face coverings, which are intended to protect the community and fall under the General Product Safety Directive. Okay, that does not mean that medical face masks or community face coverings do not protect us, but the fact is that they do not provide the same degree of protection as FFP type masks. Okay. Fatal and major accidents regularly show us the importance of the role of the PPE in our daily life, and regrettably, COVID-19 has shown us how important this small piece of equipment, like masks, coveralls, goggles, and gloves, have become essential in our lives, most especially in the lives of our healthcare workers. So the PPE regulation 2016-425 covers the design, manufacture, and marketing of personal protective equipment. It defines the legal obligations to ensure that PPE on the internal market provides the highest level of protection against risks. The CE marking affixed to the PPE provides evidence of compliance of the product with the regulation. So what do we do in a unit? Among other things, because we are in charge of more pieces of regulation, we take care of the implementation and administration of the PPE regulation in the EU. For that, we are in close contact with the respective authorities in the member states in charge of PPE, the conformity assessment bodies, or so-called notified bodies that make the conformity assessments that allow the CE marking of the product, the standardization bodies that create the standards, and the related industrial associations and social partners. Okay. So what has been our response so far since the beginning of the pandemic? And I am strictly speaking from the point of view of our unit, because the Commission has launched numerous initiatives. And in some extent, we have contributed to all the initiatives that were related to PPE. But from our unit, we have, since the outbreak of the pandemic in China early this year, we have been in contact with economic operators across the EU to track the evolution of the manufacturing capacities and availability of stocks, and help address bottlenecks that companies may encounter when increasing production capacities. This dialogue with economic operators led to the creation of the clearinghouse and a specific task force that facilitates the matching of needs of member states with the supply for medical and protective equipment. And we have been in close contact as well with sectorial associations like ESF for PPE, Euratex for textiles, or EDANA for non-woven materials. In order to increase the supply of essential medical and protective equipment, we have adopted as well a recommendation 2020-403 that speeds up the evaluation and authorization of personal protective equipment. This recommendation encouraged notified bodies to prioritize and swiftly make conformity assessments for all new requests by economic operators. For protective equipment, not following harmonized standards, notified bodies should take World Health Organization recommendations as reference for the technical assessment. Market surveillance authorities may authorize products for the EU market without finalized conformity assessment procedures if the equipment ensures an adequate level of health and safety in line with EU law requirements. And in exceptional cases, this recommendation allows purchases organized by EU countries for healthcare workers. They can skip the necessary conformity assessment procedures, provided that the EU countries' authorities have ensured the adequate levels of safety. Okay. In addition to this recommendation, we have requested as well the standardization bodies to make harmonized standards that are applicable to COVID-related PPE available for free in the market. And we have issued a specific guidance documents, for example, a Q&A guidance document on how to verify that medical device and PPE can be lawfully placed on the EU market, and another guidance document for manufacturers to help economic operators to assess whether they can convert the existing facilities to produce protective equipment. It details applicable EU legal frameworks and the steps that manufacturers need to take to place their products on the EU market. So altogether, these measures have contributed to increasing production and availability of critical equipment in the EU market without compromising the protection of health and safety of users. So to finalize, if you want more information on PPE, you can visit our dedicated website. You can see the link there, or you can send us an email to grow-pp@eceuropa.eu. and we will be happy to answer any question with regards to implementation of the PPE regulation. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome, Ivan, and I am glad to have you here with us. It is a very critical aspect of what our needs during the past month. So you are welcome, and I am sure that we will come back to you soon at the open dialogue. So now it's time to welcome Denise Dambois. Denise, bonjour.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. I can share your presentation if you want, or would you prefer to do that directly?
Yes, you can share it. You can share it if it works.
Yeah, I think so. There it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I will try in 7 minutes to give you to say a few words useful in this context about IP protection in particular, and I'm with the IPR unit in DG Grow. Okay, you can move to the next. Okay, so about IP protection, you all know about patents, so I will not spend too much time on that. It can be for products, including, for example, masks, medicines, etc. It can also be on processes, even on new uses of certain products like medicines, but I will not expand on that for the moment. This is a bit long. And then you can click another mechanism which is quite important for medicine, so pharmaceuticals, also plant protection products, but that is not relevant today. So for medicines, in certain conditions, for medicines subjected to marketing authorizations, in certain conditions, you may get what is called a supplementary protection certificate, which may extend, let's say, the duration of patent protection by up to 5 years. It is not always 5 years, can be 1 week, can be 1 month, 2 years. Well, it depends on certain details. I will not tell you now how it is calculated. And in addition to that, you can get up to 6 months in addition to the whatever duration of the SPC for products having pediatric uses in certain conditions. And if you click again, so that was about really IP, intellectual property. Now there is another set of measures that can be used and that are that apply very often to pharmaceuticals, but that is on the pharmaceutical legislation side. So this is what we call the regulatory protection. And on the next slide, voila, we have these the so-called data exclusivity and market exclusivity. Well, I will not enter into the details because in 7 minutes it would be a bit difficult. But so you can, the main thing to remember, I think, is that for 10 years, starting from the marketing authorization for a certain medicine, you enjoy so-called market exclusivity, meaning that no competitor may place the same product on the market during 10 years. So that is quite interesting. And it also applies, again, this is not about IP. So these data exclusivity and market exclusivity also apply even when there is no patent. So quite important. And well, you have more specific mechanisms for orphan medicines, but okay, let's not enter into the details. And I should have mentioned as well that this market exclusivity of 10 years can be extended by a possible additional year for new therapeutic indications in certain conditions. So this is why the European system is often called the 8 plus 2 plus 1, because 8 plus 2 is 10, and there is potentially this plus 1. So this is quite a quite strong protection, which in some cases, there was a recent study for those interested. I can give you the details. 2 years ago, we had a study conducted by Copenhagen Economics, done jointly with DG Santé. and trying to assess the impact of all the pharma incentives, both the IP incentives and these regulatory incentives. It is full of economic data, etc. Okay, we can move to the next slide. The next slide, please. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so then it is the same thing. It is nothing new, but trying to show in a little sketch the different kinds of protection we have. So at the top, you have the IP protection, patent certainly, and then potentially SPCs and potentially an extension of the SPCs by 6 months. And then at the bottom in orange, you have these regulatory mechanisms. So in all cases, you have data protection and market exclusivity, which may be extended by 1 year again for therapeutic indications. And then the very last line at the bottom, apologies, this is about specific incentives for orphan medicines, and including a possible extension for pediatric uses of these orphan medicines. So you see that it is all a bit complex. You have the references of the regulations if you want to dig yourself into that. But okay, we can move on. So we can move to the next slide. Okay, yeah, this is not from us. This is from some study, I think, showing a little bit the impact, the economic impact of pharmaceutical protection. I mean IP protection, because of course for an innovative pharma company, I'm not talking about generics makers, but about innovative pharma companies. Of course, whenever a patent or SPC, if there is one, expires, of course, this has a huge impact in economic terms because generics can enter the market at a lower cost, typically a 50% lower cost. And so the sales and the profits, of course, are eroded quite seriously. Here you have an estimate of this impact on sales and profits of patent of IP protection expiries. And of course, it may vary from 1 year to the other, depending on which patents will expire, if these were blockbusters, etc., etc. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. And then to give you an idea of what is coming up, there are three, normally we should have around November 3 communications of the Commission. The first one being the so-called IP Action Plan under the lead of DG GROW, but with the involvement of many other DGs, JRC, DG Research, DG Connect, of course, for copyright, etc. It will announce a number of initiatives, but then we will, of course, have separately all those initiatives will be, whether they are legislative or non-legislative. For example, probably there should be a proposal for a unitary SPC, because until today, SPCs are purely national. Well, there is a EU regulation, but they are managed purely nationally. A roadmap has been published. It gives you quite a number of details. Then we have the so-called pharmaceutical strategy for Europe, that is the official title, under the lead of DG Santé, of course, which will propose different ways of identifying and addressing specific issues relating both to promoting innovation and promoting access to medicines, including a few in the specific context of the COVID crisis to address shortages, etc. Here again, specific initiatives will follow. Here again, a roadmap has been published, and so you can find already quite a number of details in that roadmap. And then there should be also by DG Santé a communication whose title would be more or less COVID-19 lessons learned. So this is about, it's a sort of short-term response to the crisis we are in, and it will address issues like health crises, preparedness in the EU, how to cope with shortages, closures of borders, and such issues. But okay, I think I have to stop here due to time constraints, but of course I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
You are very welcome, Denise. And yes, I am sure that we will come back to you. Your area was critical, as you very well know, and as Eva Revilla has said in the chat, we have a special session with Annalisa Tesarolo about the clearinghouse, and we were speaking about this kind of this topic, this concrete topic. So I'm sure that we will come back to you. But now it's time to jump to the experiences and references from the different clusters. Okay, 3 clusters we have today as representative, or 2 on a network. But before introducing them, I will propose, Marek, if you could just comment on the data that we have received from the ECCP on the industrial clusters in the health sector. Are you there, Marek?
Yes, I'm here. So can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So I think you can see with the numbers, the health sector in clusters is extremely strong in comparison to other ecosystem that we showed last time. I think if not the strongest one. This is more than 180 industrial clusters which are operating in medical devices or biopharmaceuticals. More than 26,000 members they gather, so large technology centers, large enterprises, but of course majority is SMEs, 19,000 SMEs, mainly in Germany, France and Spain, Poland and Belgium. These are the main countries where clusters are, and Netherlands, of course, clusters are operating in this field. So it's a very, very strong cluster and with big potential of in implementation and influencing the reality of change. They are very good managed. 22 of them has the gold label of good management. They are engaging in partnerships. There is medical devices partnership in thematic smart specialization platforms, and then they provide the same services. So this is an element, services provided, that we need to still work out during the whole process of engaging clusters into the ecosystems, because at this moment we have the services provided and they are generic for every clusters independent where ecosystems they are in. But I think here there must be differences in a way that the services are provided, both from the point of view where they are provided and from the point of view of the development of the, for example, the capacity of pharmaceutical biomedicine or medical equipment, and here the types of services will differentiate very much depending if you have the huge pharmaceutical company in cluster or you don't have it, and then you need to accelerate the access of this medicines or medical services across your territory. So just because I've been presenting this industrial clusters for different ecosystems, and I'm realizing very much that we don't have really the tailoring of the services according to the ecosystem. This is something that we need to work on. Thank you, Antonio, for this. Thanks.
You are very welcome, Marek. It's impressive, the numbers, and I think perhaps it explains how active we have been during this crisis, to be part of the explanation. So we will hear now some examples and ideas from precisely some of those clusters. And the first one will be Mark Deschamps. Welcome, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Antonio. How are you?
Should I give you the presentation rights or not?
Exactly. It will be better. Thank you.
Okay. Floor is yours, Mark.
Thank you very much, Antonio. First, I would like to introduce CBAR, the Council of European Bioregions, before moving to BioIN. So it will allow Anaïs at the end of the webinar to focus on the questions and recommendations we have at CBAR. So my name is Marc Deschamps. I'm a biologist by background. I spent most of my life in pharma and biotech industry, 30 years in a large pharma, GSK, in Belgium and in London at the headquarters, and I managed 2 biotech companies in Belgium before going and joining actually BioIN, the health life science cluster of Wallonia, almost 2 years ago now. I have the pleasure to be the president of CBAR today, and that's the reason why I would like to introduce our council. Because it was nicely introduced by the previous speaker, but we are indeed a lot of clusters and a lot of very active clusters all across Europe. And the Council of European Bioregion is really trying to federate all these clusters and to speak the same language, develop and discuss about the services, to your point, we are developing, and make sure that we can create a critical mass to push for dedicated and harmonized policies across Europe. So we really support the European life science ecosystem and in getting visibility, and what we do today, and we are pleased to be invited today to increase connection. So on top of critical mass, we want also to raise awareness among decision makers on how life science clusters contribute to sustainable growth in the different regions in Europe, to expand the cluster's opportunities based on a larger European network, because as you can imagine, you will see 37 cluster and region help, and ensure cluster managers' voice is heard. So CBAR is a non-profit organization. It's a membership-driven network of life science clusters and regional ecosystem in Europe. As I said, we represent over 37 subscription members, but also hundreds of cluster partners across the world. And we represent and support a critical mass of SMEs, but also universities and research centers. This is a good view of all the clusters. Some are still missing, but all the clusters and the geographical spread of our own organization. And so definitely the vision of CBAR is to strengthen the transfer of knowledge and the collaboration between life science clusters and ecosystem in Europe, and to support the sustainable growth of SMEs, creating, like you wish in DG GROW at the European Commission, a competitive Europe in the global economy. So we have created, and that's the mission, but we have created already an European platform for cluster development and collaboration, including competencies and exchange, increase the visibility of clusters and their contribution to sustainable growth, and implement joint activities to support SME development. So the objectives are the following. We created this platform, as I said, which allows SMEs in Europe to be much more connected. We want to advocate also for the importance of the SMEs. We want to be to come to you at the European level with one voice and hopefully to be heard. We want to raise awareness among decision makers on how life science clusters contribute to sustainable growth in the territories. Also to transform the competitiveness between clusters into cooperation. Cooperation between our members by reducing the fragmentation of activities, create the critical mass I already mentioned, to push for dedicated and harmonized policies across Europe, expand clusters opportunities, the offer of this cluster based on larger European network, and strengthen the cooperation through knowledge transfer, again, best practice sharing between the members. So what we do actually is we have networking and communication activities, so internal web to share projects, events, contacts, announcements, monthly newsletter to disseminate opportunities. We organize also activities and events, side events at an important partnering conference in the world, where we can meet and continue to discuss together and share activities and knowledge. monthly webinar on selected topics, and we have an annual meeting where all the members are represented and propose activities, ideas, projects. We want to promote the visibility of CBAR, so participation in larger EU projects, support the definition of cluster policies at EU level, exactly what we just discussed with the previous speaker, and give voice to the members through a special interest group with concrete results and matchmaking. So this is CBAR in a nutshell, and clearly Anaïs Le Corvec and myself will be very happy to answer any question in that field later on. Antonio, if you don't mind, I would like now to go to the BioIN presentation. So as I said,
sure.
Thank you. BioIN is the health of Wallonia. So for those who are living in Brussels, so that's the southern part of Belgium, so below Brussels. And BioIN is the gateway to health biotech and medtech excellence in the region. And what I would like to share with you is really what was the Walloon response to the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, at least the wave 1. Hopefully, we will not have a wave 2 at the same with the same impact. And that's really a prime example of versatility, problem solving, and teamwork. But what I would like to say before showing that is it is really representative of what the other bioregions in Europe did during the same period. So what I'm going to show you is really what you can have seen, and if you were there, what you would have seen done by our colleagues in the different bioregions. So you know the context with the SARS-CoV-2, the lockdown in the spring. In Wallonia specifically, what we saw, the life science ecosystem showed a remarkable reactivity and creativity in the response to the pandemic. Universities and companies offer creative solutions to the numerous problematics through numerous national and international collaboration and projects. I'm going to showcase some of them. And specifically for BioIN, for the cluster, the goal was to rapidly activate it, the Walloon resources, identify expertise and talents needed for the projects, to initiate this project, and to facilitate the collaboration between the different actors, so being a catalyst also. So some of the examples are the following. We spoke already about the PPEs and the material. So very quickly, we had own mass productions. We had absolutely no production of masks in Wallonia before the pandemic. And the company Deltrian was selected by the government to ensure the large-scale manufacturing of surgical masks. And it was done in 2 months' time, and they started the production, and they are now producing even for other regions in Europe. Same problem of a shortage of swabs. So we had 3D printing companies focusing immediately on this issue and starting to produce swabs, 3D site and Initiate. Mass decontamination was also a big issue. And we had either companies like Salamander U and Solid Frog combining proprietary confinement chambers and decontamination device, so very strong collaboration. And under the coordination of the University of Liège, you see that different decontamination methods were developed and put together in order to ensure this mass decontamination issue. So it was Lazeb, Sterigenics, AMB, EcoSteril. For the testing, so different new testing methods were created at the beginning of the pandemic. So in the University of Namur, in the University of Liège, but also SME, Chorist Bioconcept, which developed a rapid viral antigens detection method. Serological testing, we had also Zentech in collaboration with Zeda in China. Zentech developed very rapidly also rapid IgG detection test. We had detection platforms created to support the effort of the government for the diagnostic of the patients. We all know that at the beginning of the pandemic, it was really difficult to cover all the patients with symptoms, and even more the patients which were in contact. So different universities, as you can see, University Namur, Mons, ULB, UCL, created a platform together with the industry, Biogazelle, UCB, which is a Belgian company, GSK as the GSK vaccine global headquarter and manufacturing site here in Wallonia. It was initially a Walloon company called RIT. And also in Flanders, Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceutica, which is the pharmaceutical branch of Johnson & Johnson. So all these companies supported the government for diagnostic. But it was not the only initiative, because all the universities, also at least 5 universities, were in backup as diagnostic centers in case of. So we had the University of Leuven, Liège, University of Brussels, University of Louvain-la-Neuve, and University of Mons. And Eurogentech, which is a Kaneka company, it's a big CDMO for biologics in Wallonia, and Eurogentech provided reagents and equipment to support the diagnostic laboratories. For the treatment, maybe you don't know, but Belgium and Wallonia in particular is a very big soil for vaccines with GSK. We had GSK starting to collaborate with CureVac in Germany, but also with Sanofi providing the adjuvant. We had Universal, which is a company having the ability to produce vaccines at a very affordable cost, starting a consortium in collaboration with Ritera in Italy and Lecoq in Germany. Novacep in Wallonia is producing the API of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. And other companies also started to work in the treatment. So Delphi Genetics specialized in gene therapy. And we got today the announcement that the first proof of concept is working. And specifically for the digital solutions, 2 companies, the Analytics and Keros, contributed to the development of an app for the Trust Sync. And even if Keros was not selected, it was a big consortium of including university, industrial partners, and other Belgian scientific entities. They developed this app, but unfortunately for them, they were not selected by the government. So as you can see, quite a lot of initiatives. So as a conclusion, I would like to say that the initiatives and collaboration presented here illustrate the drive and the resourcefulness of public-private sector instance of the Walloon region. But again, this is really just an example of what happened in other big bioregions in Europe. And we had the possibility within CIBAR to share this initiative all together. Two lessons. So, and I think it's important for you too. This exceptional richness existing in the Walloon and other European bioregions in health license ecosystem has to be, you have to rely on, and rely also on the nimbleness, the agility, if you prefer, and reactivity of the cluster and of the ecosystem. And clearly, as it was said in 2009, and again, I was at GSK at the time, I know very well that we were very well prepared for the H1N1 pandemic, which at the end of the day didn't appear as such. But here, all the people and all the cluster either were taken by surprise. So clearly, we have to be prepared. We have to anticipate. This is a must. And within CIBAR, we are really ready to collaborate with all our members. And 3 consequences for us at BioWin. Clearly, we have to promote synergistic collaboration between industrial actors and hospitals. This is really the key moment to develop digitalization in the healthcare system, e-health, digital health, for the benefit of the patient, but also for the benefit of the Belgian economy. The same for Europe. We have to rely on the collaboration with the clusters among the EU bioregions to leverage the extreme richness and agility of the ecosystem and their SMEs. And this is also the great thing within CIBAR. We have a lot of solidarity. And so we can easily find solutions to complete a consortium, because in the network we have, we collaborate a lot. And specifically, it was mentioned about, Anna spoke about chemicals and pharmaceuticals. So this is a field I know very well, but bear in mind that the future lies in bioproducts, in biomanufacturing, in biomedicine. And this is really a big strength we have in Wallonia, and we would like to reinforce biologics productions activities in the region. by providing support to both established and developing companies, as you have seen, with development of vaccines and production of vaccines for either, like for others, like for AstraZeneca and so on, and GSK, and universals, but as well as by attracting foreign actors to fully currently and exploit the niche in the field. This is specifically a big consequence for BioIn. So it was the presentation in a nutshell, Antonio, and I'm happy to take all the questions afterwards or later after the webinar if necessary.
Thank you very much, Mark, and I'm sure there will be questions for you later. So now we are welcoming Horst Tonday from BioM, the Biotech Cluster Development in Germany. So welcome, Horst.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I have no presentation. Well, I prepared a presentation, but I will not use that. Yeah, because so just listen to me. Well, my name is Horst Domdey. The name Domdey is of Latin origin. It comes from Domus Dei, so I'm the Mr. House of God. In Spain, I would be Mr. Iglesias. In UK, I would be Mr. Church. So that you know about my name, which is my only pride. I'm representing the Munich Biotech Cluster with more than 270 companies, and I'm also overseeing here, or we as cluster management organization overseeing, let's say, all biotech activities in the biomedical field in all of Bavaria, which comes to around 400. Now, I will focus mainly on what happened in the past half year in the context of COVID-19. We started our COVID-19 related activities on March 16. We switched our cluster management completely to supporting companies, to supporting universities in this area. And so, for example, I already reported about that. We implemented a COVID-19 collaboration platform where more than 100 organizations, companies put their proposals, which led to several collaborative effects. We also did a survey, for example. We wanted to find out how are the companies doing, and that was a very interesting picture. Whereas a number of companies were really suffering, especially those companies who relied on, let's say, on the sales of their products to university institutes, which were locked down. So the sales went down to more than 80%, and the companies were close to insolvency, but they eventually, as far as I know, all of them managed to survive, and hopefully they are back on track. Others did very well because they could profit from the pandemic. Most interestingly, the biggest problem of the companies was, what do we do with our children when we want to work as well? Because the preschools, the kindergartens were closed, and that was actually, when we made our service, one of the biggest problems that we had there. Now, what we also did from the beginning, we collected proposals from our local and regional biotech industry, proposals and ideas for fighting the pandemic. And that was very interesting. Altogether, I can say we collected more than 30 proposals. And based on that, we requested a funding program to support, let's say, the developments of the business ideas which were in there. We asked the state, mainly we started with the state of Bavaria, because we also realized there's a market failure of the, for example, venture capital industry. When talking to investors, they clearly said, well, we will not spend any money on that, because when the pandemic is over, then we have the product and we do not know what to do with the product. We will spend our money on supporting our portfolio companies because they are suffering as well because of home office, etc., etc. So the let's say the state organizations or the ministries I think are the only possibility to support the system, the biotech ecosystem, which is there. And we requested altogether, I can tell you very frankly, a funding program of 200 million euros, because this number came from the fact because Bavaria offered to support the industry 20 billion euros. And we said, well, why don't you spend 1% of this money to fight actively against the pandemic? So the amount might be high, but in context for when you compare it, well, all the other money spent, for example, to support the automobile industry, to support the warehouses, etc., to have this short-time work, which costs a lot of money, etc., etc. And we received proposals in, you can say, 3 different areas, which are fast and reliable diagnostics, effective therapeutics, and safe vaccines. It was also good to hear that the EU had changed its rules, so when you get funding, it's up to 80% that you can get from as a grant from the total volume of the research and development proposal. And that was already immediately, let's say, put into action here in the state of Bavaria. And the officers in the ministry were very helpful there. They immediately reacted and put that into action. We were also very successful when we supported a couple of companies who had good and new ideas to produce fast and reliable diagnostics. The state of Bavaria invested a decent amount of money, and now I already reported some months ago about that. So one of these products has now reached, let's say, is ready to be the device can be produced in thousands and 10,000s, etc. And this fast device or this fast diagnostic system can produce results, let's say, in less than 30 minutes. And the system is already in action at the Munich airport, for example, where passengers which leave Munich can be tested. Since it has not, the device has not yet been officially approved, it cannot be used for incoming passengers. But if you want to have your result in less than half an hour, people use that, and already thousands of passengers have used that system. The good part is it is tested in combination with the classical system, with the gold standard, and as far as I've heard, there is no difference. So you get a reliable result after less than half an hour. Otherwise, you have to wait more than 24 hours with the classical systems. When we look at vaccine development, we see there is a lot of action in Germany and in Europe and all over the world. We know that, for example, the German government spent more than 1 billion euros to support vaccine development. The money is, but on the other hand, only going into 3 companies here in Germany, which is BioNTech, which is CureVac, and which is IDT Dessau. So other, perhaps even more interesting approaches are not supported. For example, vaccines that are also sterilized the virus, very innovative concepts that they have not received any money. What is not, well, I can say very positive results with diagnostics here on the state level, on the vaccine level, also a European-wide support, a worldwide support. What I'm really missing is the support of therapeutics. Mark also showed a few examples on that, but I think this is a very big problem. We are, let's say, usually I'm an optimistic person, I'm a realistic person, but in this aspect, I'm a little bit pessimistic. What we've seen here is a complete tunnel vision of the political decision makers. When we approach them, they always say, no, we will have a vaccine. Although they should know that we have more than 1,000 dangerous viruses, and only in 17 species of these viruses it was possible to develop a vaccine. There are other examples where huge amounts of money were spent, for example, to treat HIV infections. Billions have been spent, it was not successful. Then look, for example, at hepatitis C virus. A vaccine would not work there because the virus is developing too fast. What helped was a therapeutic. And I'm really astonished that our political decision makers in Bavaria, in Germany, and in Europe have this tunnel vision And it reminds me a little bit of the tunnel vision we had in the past, looking at the pandemic in general, because everybody was knowing that there might come a pandemic, but nobody was doing against that. So we have no plan B if the vaccines fail, which has happened, for example, to a vaccine that was developed several years ago against SARS-CoV-1. We get huge support, I can say, I have to admit, and I appreciate that, from the officers in the ministries. So they really support us. They prepare everything. They have everything ready to go. We also could, for example, convince the political decision makers in the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs. They support us as well, but they don't get any support from the other ministries. I assume politicians are afraid when they say we also want to support the development of therapeutics, that people think, why are they not convinced that the vaccine will work? But indeed, we have no plan B if this does not work. So this is, let's say, a very disappointing story that I have to tell you. Things work nicely with diagnostics, things work nicely with vaccines, with the hope. I pray to God, I would pray to God, if I would believe in God, that the vaccines really will work, but I'm not so sure. And if they don't work, they don't. The idea would be that if we can reduce the mortality rate by good therapeutics, and we've seen some very good examples in that respect, by a factor 10 or even by a factor of 100, then we could return to the old normality. We're living in a normality. We always live in normality. But now we could go back to the old normality, because then we could treat probably the disease like a classical influenza infection, but that will not be possible. So I strongly hope that let's say the vaccines will work. Otherwise, I would say Europe has failed in this aspect, because also approaches, we approached members of the different parliaments, of the Bavarian parliament, of the German parliament, of the European parliament, and they all say, well, you are absolutely right, because it's not my view. I collected the views from very well-known, recognized virologists. They all share this view, but nobody dares to say them. And let's say our parliamentarians until now did not help us. Maybe, and what we should do perhaps on the European level, we should get together. On the German level, our bioregions really got together. We are now trying to work, for example, to propose these things once more to the federal ministries of research and the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs. Until now, it did not work yet. So everybody's waiting that perhaps in the next year we all will be vaccinated and we will be safe, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe we can start something here on the European level as well. I still wanted to say something about our digitalization project, but my time has run out. I can do that the next time. Thank you very much.
You are very, very welcome, Horst, and thank you for sharing us not only the good news, but also the risk, and we need to take them in account. So thank you, and now it's time to welcome Anaïs Lecobert, that is managing the cyber network. So Anaïs, welcome. I will give you the presentation, right?
No need. If you don't want to, I think I'll just speak because of the time constraint. Okay. And I just wanted to say a few words. So first of all, thank you for having us. I think Marc already presented CIBER. I have done so in the past also a few times. So I thought maybe for today, what I would bring to the table is more some discussion items. And so I see that we are a lot also attending this morning, and a lot of CIBER members, and I'm really happy to see all of you guys here. But this is the opportunity for the members and for the cluster to also share their experience and key questions for the future. So we discussed a few things, and basically I would like to bring on the table the following. As you know, we represent quite a few ecosystems all over Europe. And I think by discussing with the members, especially intensively in the last month, on what is happening and what is needed, I would say that, first of all, especially in the health sector, and that was mentioned by Anna at the very beginning, it is a huge sector, and also by Marek in terms of influence of the clusters. There are many clusters, many companies. It's really an important economical sector in the EU. But on our side, we would like to understand better also what is the interconnection with the different DGs, for example, that are working together on this particular ecosystem. Why? Because obviously, as cluster, we participate in many different projects, many different working groups, and we work with hospitals, we work with university, with big company, with industry, and so on. And it would be very relevant to know, and maybe to be also in some of the discussions when there are, let's say, inter-DG groups, like Anna mentioned with DG Research, DG Connect, or DG Health. I think clusters are not only, let's say, related to, for example, DG Grow, but could be also in discussion with the other DGs, which we are trying to do. So this is one of my first key questions, let's say, to the EU, and I see some people from GRC too. So the research component is very important for us, and I think it would be nice to go deeper in there. One of the key recommendations or let's say, ideas that we have been promoting is, for example, the support in simplifying some of the general schemes to support the SMEs and the health ecosystem at large. Just to give a very concrete example, from the last few months, obviously, we all moved online, so we're all very used to the online world, and unfortunately, in some of the programs that a lot of our clusters are working on, this is not kind of, let's say, considered. And the funds that could be allocated from one place to another, so shifted from, let's say, normal travel that we used to do to other aspects is not possible. So we would really, and I think the members will really fancy or appreciate more flexibility in that sense, as we are in this new normality, a lot more connected from different places. And SMEs will not spend money on traveling right now, but they do need to get matched and to get in connection with other SME. And this is one of the things that our members, the clusters, are facilitating. I think we also have some great examples here that Mark and Horst have mentioned, but I'm sure others could do, in terms of the development and the maintenance of the global competitiveness in the health sector. So Mark gave a few examples. I will not go into that, but if you are here online today and you want to share, please do so. I also, another recommendation is more incentive for the cross-European support and development. So we heard some time ago about the idea of the Euro clusters. It would be great to hear a bit more again, because we think, in especially again the health sector, this is very important, that the support scheme are not only let's say regional, transborder, which are really important, but also across Europe to dynamize the market. And finally, but I think this is something that's been said many times here, because we as cluster, we really believe that we do interconnect, that we support the SMEs, and that we're able to match, especially in such a sector as the health one, with the key actors and the key players of the sector. So this is a open request for more support and more concrete scheme for the clusters, not just for the SMEs, but for the clusters. So anyway, that's it for me, because as I said, I see many things interesting in the chat box, and I think, Antonio, you're a great radio host on these sessions, so I think it would be great to open the floor. And that's it for me for today.
Thank you very much, Anais. Merci beaucoup. Yeah, you are right. It's time to open the floor. I have just one direct question for everybody, okay? Because Horst has mentioned a possible problem for the future. Are there now supply chain problems on the health ecosystem or not? Because, you know, here in Spain, we are speaking about the possible problems in the health system in in Madrid, for example, okay? And some of the problems came from the lack of professionals. And that is also a problem in the supply chain, if you want to say it, okay? So are we having or suffering problems yet? Still, pardon, sorry? Or are you foreseeing possible problems in the near future? It's a question for everybody, not only for the speakers. No?
Antonio, I can comment from a Walloon perspective. So far, actually, the stock were rebuilt. The government found a different type of sourcing, either for the drug for ICU patients or for masks. We started the production of masks and swabs here in Wallonia, and we are even producing for other countries, other regions now. So the problem was really well tackled. Anyway, as always, we will see if everything is okay. If unfortunately we are going in a second wave, but so far the supply chain is more or less returned to the normal level with a safety or a strategic stock for most of the components we need to tackle the COVID-19.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that was one question. I see that there are other, I don't want to monopolize, I have more questions, but I think that there are a lot of attendants that wants to speak. Who is the first?
I can. I'm Rino Proda.
Sorry.
So I'm Rino Proda. I'm speaking from Italy. I represent the Distretto Campania Bioscience, and I've just to reflect on just one point. So at the regional level, too, we face the difficulty of keeping all companies together towards a common strategy. So of course, everyone is committed to managing their own strategy, but at times like these, it is necessary, of course, to join forces, as was said before, while keeping their interests separate. So the role of politics is to channel these efforts and ensure competition at the same time. So the matter is competition that sometimes, keeps forces separate. So this is a main issue at the European level, national level, of course, in our region too.
Or competition, no? It's a mix between competition and collaboration, especially in those days, no?
Yes, the issue is how to guarantee competition and keep all the efforts together. This is the main issue.
Thank you, Rino. Okay, Jorge González, you wanted to speak?
Yes, thank you very much for organizing this, Antonio. Thank you very much for all the presentation, especially on Anais. I would like to follow up on what she said. I think that she's very right on especially how to follow up with the different with the Commission. And my suggestion is we have here representatives from DG Grow, which I think is great. But as you have seen, several things. Health is not just one thing. It's at least therapeutics, medical devices, pharma, digital health, etc. And I think that though they are very close related, they are still different. That's one thing. The second thing is that for each of these verticals, there is one counterpart unit in other DGs, say DG Connect, DG Santé, and perhaps other DGs, that they don't, in my opinion, when I talk with them, they are not so aware about the role of clusters and the value that we can deliver to the ecosystem. So follow up again on Anais' presentation. What I will do is try to suggest a follow-up telco like this or in another setting where this is not just the DG per se, but for example, concrete units with the DG, for example, the e-health unit for digital health. In my case, that's my specialty. For example, with people from DG Santé and people from DG Grow, that we can talk about the specific issues of digital health and clusters and the European Commission. and perhaps to do the same with the other verticals if they are interested in that, like therapeutics, medical devices, pharma, etc. Because this is a very broad issue, and if we try to solve everything at the same time, I think we will not get as momentum. We split it in the verticals, and we tackle the specific colleague units from the European Commission with the support with DG Growth. That's my proposal.
And this is a proposal at CIBA we fully support.
Thank you, and I think that we need to work on it, and we will work on it. Okay, we have today with us three representatives of DG Growth, but on other areas that the clusters, and we have the opportunity to share with them what can we propose, what are our capacities and also the challenges. But I totally understand what you are suggesting, and we will support it, the organization of new meetings. And I need to say also that have a good news, because CIBA proposed to join the European Cluster Alliance some weeks ago, and we had a General Assembly past Monday. And this is news because I didn't tell Anais even or Mark about it, but we approve the integration of CIBA as a other member for the European Cluster Alliance, and that means that we will give our full support to you on all the future actions in a formal way. So thank you, and that is a route that we need to build, to explore together. Okay. So anyway,
great news. Thank you. Great morning start. Happy to hear that.
Yes. That's the, you know, at the beginning, the European Cluster Alliance has been composed also only by national networks, and that is a big change. And so you are opening the road. Thank you.
Great. I think there are more questions, maybe. Yeah, and Eva is putting there. I think we already spoken before, just for the people there here, that we would definitely organize a health 2 session, maybe with some other of the DGs, because as it's been said, that it's really, yeah, that this ecosystem is really broad. I'm just wondering if on the other things, for example, Alberto from BioPmed, you put also a very good question, I think, in the chat box. I'm just pointing out. Do you want to talk, Alberto, and say it in a, I don't know if it's there anymore.
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning, to everybody. Alberto Baldi from BioPmed cluster, Piemonte, Italy. Yeah, I just launched a little bit of a suggestion that comes from the practical experience that we have had in Italy, and maybe it is common, somebody else might have experienced that. Such big issues like the COVID pandemic have been properly taken at European level and at national level. But these decisions need to be transferred to the lowest political level, I mean the closest to the citizens, and this is usually the regional level. At least in Italy, healthcare system is national, but regions do have large autonomy in managing how the healthcare system is organized and how the health services are provided to the citizens at regional level. Now we are discussing the role of clusters in the health ecosystems. And the role of clusters, of healthcare clusters in regional ecosystems, can be really relevant, of course, depending on the local conditions. But these large issues are usually managed and discussed at national level, even not at European level. So how it is possible to ensure that the voice of clusters is heard, and how it is possible to ensure that the clusters do take action in putting in place the decisions that are taken at European and at national level. We have seen some experiences of networks. CBER is one of those, European Cluster Alliance. There are many, but everything is on a voluntary basis. And I'm wondering if this is enough, if the response to such big challenges can be left only to voluntary networks, which can be strong, but are probably not the strongest institutions that it is possible to have. So I think there is room for additional ways of organizing things. Of course, this is the first experience. We didn't have to face anything similar in the past, but I think that this allows us to reflect on this and how it is possible to better integrate the regional level with the national and the European level.
Thank you, grazie mille, Alberto. I will not probably from my side is a misunderstanding, but I don't think that we are voluntary networks. We are professional networks and professional clusters. Probably what I understand that you mean is that we need to be included in the procedures to be recognized as agents on the different. For example, we are part of the steering committee of the expert groups in some areas, and we could be introduced on that kind of circuits or boards if you want. Okay. But just to clarify, we are totally professional. I think, sorry.
No, it is clear that we are professional, but we can have access to these networks only if somebody decides to join these networks. We are lucky to have people like Horst and large regions like Bavaria, for example, who is bringing a lot of expertise in this field. But maybe there are other regions which would have other things to add, and they are simply not part of the network because they did not decide to become part of the network, and we are missing some pieces. This is my point. CBER has now 37 members. Okay, we are representing a nice part of the European life sciences and healthcare landscape, but we are still missing lots of regions, and these regions cannot be involved in the activities because these are voluntary networks. They become members of the networks and they are going to share the information, the activities and everything only if they decide to become members of these networks. We are all professionals, this is clear, but I was just putting the focus on the fact that if somebody doesn't want to share or doesn't want to be member of one of those networks, they are simply out of the network, and so they cannot count on the expertise that the network can bring to them, and at the same time the network cannot count on the experience of the people that are out of the network.
Thank you, Alberto. Now for me it's clear the idea. Yes, you are right, and we need to promote the growth of our networks, and it can be done also with the support of the European Commission or the different national or regional governments, for sure. We have only 5 4 minutes for the rest of the session, and I wanted to make a comment on to Dennis and the IP rights. You have spoken, or sorry, written on the chat about some emergency ways to deal with the IPs. Will you comment? Sorry, Denise, are you there? I don't know if Denise is with us or not. No, it seems. Yes, he's. Denise, can you hear me? No, we cannot hear you. Okay. 3 minutes. Who wants to make the last comment, question, suggestion?
I don't know if it will be the last comment. It's Anna from the DG Grow. Just to thank everyone for the comments and the feedback that you made about interconnections between different DGs and services and how we involve clusters in the work for that we do for industrial ecosystems. And I think it's a very valid point, and it's a question that we are asking ourselves, because industrial ecosystems, we don't want to create yet another layer or yet another don't know, whatever terminology that we use, and that we have so many different work strands going in parallel. So we want all these work strands to communicate and to share the expertise, and but it's easier said than done, and we need to find a way how we bring industrial ecosystems into the work that we do, for example, for the health ecosystem, because this one is really complicated, because so far we have involved DG Connect and DG Sante, but we know as well that RTD plays a big role, JRC plays a role, we have probably other DGs that could or would like to be involved. So I think it will take some time to find a way to work together, so that we really get the additional benefit of this collective intelligence and sharing knowledge. So you have to be patient, and we also need to be innovative and creative in how we link and embed these different work strands in toward, so that we can achieve this of and support the green and digital transition, and achieve the objectives of resilience that are now prominent and are kind of compass of our actions as well. Yeah. So thanks again for your interventions and for having me here today.
If I may just jump on what Anna said, I think that's very nice to hear. The willingness, and we know you are already working together, and I think our proposition somehow is to say, if you need, let's say, the practical side of things, so the experience of having to deal with all the DGs and in which program we can support on that, please count us in. I mean, as a, let's say, the other side, the one that experiment this different DGs on working on the health ecosystem. So do not hesitate to ask for feedback. Would be more happy to give.
So yes, thank you very much, Anna, and we are at your disposal. So don't hesitate, as Anna say, to contact us, and even it will be good to have some kind of working plan to grow on or to develop on that area. So we are open for that. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the speakers and the participants. The exchange in the chat has been extremely interesting. It's a pity we are not able to cover all the topics that you have open there, but we will share this video and a summary of the discussion on the ECCP, and I am sure that we will have new opportunities. Thank you, and tomorrow you are invited also to join the next session that will be dedicated to the textiles ecosystem. So advanced textile that, as you very well know, has been critical for that, the last crisis. Thank you and see you soon, I hope. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.